a really interesting press release I wrote back in April of 2020 regarding COVID-19. I was still at the city at the time, and as you can imagine, this was right as the pandemic was beginning, and we were charged with distributing all of the information to the public. And so this was very difficult because people were nervous, they didn't know who to listen to, they didn't know what to think. And so a lot of times my language with the city, when I worked at the city, was very friendly and open and honest and really light and airy, if you will. And so my word choices were not direct and firm. So I'm showing you this as an example of, we may speak to our audience in a certain way most of the time because we're talking about benign issues that are not stressful and not related to public health or public safety. But then things can happen and the tone changes. And so it's important to be really cognizant of the words that you use. And as I've said in the module, there's not really a way to teach this in a textbook. You can't just say, you need to use these words and not these words. So this is just a really great example to kind of get you to see the differences. And so instead of having a really light, airy, fun press release where we're talking about a new playground in a park, we're talking about something very serious, and we're wanting to kind of cut through the noise of the chatter from national news and from social media and from all the experts out there behind their keyboards that were trying to kind of confuse the public. It was really, really important that the county and me at the city were able to convey a message that made sense to the public. And so we're going to just read through this a little bit, and I want you to kind of pay attention to some of the words. So we talked about we've received multiple requests for additional information on confirmed cases. So this was right as everything was starting, when we had 1, 2, maybe 3 cases in the community, and everyone wanted to know all the information they could get about these people because they felt like that was going to keep them safe, which was absolutely ridiculous because we knew more people had the virus than what we were able to test for at that time. And so that was really what we were trying to get people to understand was, number one, we were getting information from the state health department because we don't have a health department, and the information was not streamlined. And so you'll see here, we talk about the way that information was coming in, and it wasn't always the same. So one day we may get the age and if they had traveled out of the country and their sex and if they lived in or out of the county. And then the next day we may just get, hey, you have a new case. The person was 30 years old. And we were releasing that information as we got it, but we weren't releasing the same information about every single person. And so we were trying to communicate a very complicated list, a very complicated set of information to people. And so being very direct in our word choice and our tone was super important. So you'll see, in order to aid in this quest for utmost transparency. So we've received multiple requests, and we want to help continue to be the most transparent we can. We want to address these concerns. So those are very direct terms. We do not have a public health district, as some other counties do. Our health authority is the state, and we go through Tyler. Until recently, we did not have standardized information, so that was really important. And this is presumed to be the high volume of requests entering this facility. So at the time, they were not equipped to handle lots of testing data because they hadn't dealt with anything like this before. And so now, today, they've hired people. There's people that work there that are solely devoted to COVID-19. But at that time, it was all hands on deck, and I don't think that they had the infrastructure of people to help get us information very quickly. So we were getting it as we could. So we have talked to them this afternoon, and we share in your frustration. That word frustration tells the public, hey, we get it. We're frustrated too. We're with you. We're on this, remember, this quest for transparency, and we're going to do everything we can to help you. So we talk a little bit about how we do this. We release a report card, and we want to give you the most amount of details we can. And then we add this in here, and I think this one is really, really important. I'm going to make this bigger. It is important to understand the big picture, like, hey, even remember in the module I talked about punctuation is important. That colon tells you, hey, there's something after this that is really, really important, and I need to read it. This virus is in our community. Increased testing capacity will obviously show increase in cases, and you should try to treat every person as potentially infected and take personal ownership in minimizing exposure. Stay home, wash your hands, don't touch your face, stay well. And so this is direct, this is to the point. This is probably the most, I wouldn't say aggressive, but the most firm we had really ever been with the public. I would equate the tone and the word choices in this to if we had had an active shooter or a bomb threat or something that's very dire and serious, because we wanted people to pay attention to the words and to what we were saying. And so I hope that some of these little examples will kind of help you see the terminology and why word choice and tone is so very important. Thanks for tuning in.